In this interview, I talked to Karl Steinmeyer. It's pretty awesome because number one, he's making $5,000 per month. Number two, he's making that money from a variety of sources, which is fantastic since it spreads the risk a little bit. And number three, we get to reveal the site. So you can go check it out. It's over here at Homebrew Academy. And we could see it right here, which is pretty fantastic. And basically, we're going to get into all the details, how he acquired this site, so he didn't build it from scratch. We get into some of the marketing details. He has a number of courses, and he talks about how he's been able to create these courses without creating them himself and actually not even being a home brewer. Very cool stuff. If you have any questions, please leave a comment. It'll be great to come back around, and Karl and I talked offline. We'll be able to do an update interview sometime in the future. So pretty cool stuff overall. Go check out his site. You can dig through all the details and leave a comment. Hit the thumbs up if you dig these kind of interviews. So let's get to it. Today we have a great interview with Karl Steinmeyer, and we're combining a few of my favorite things, which is homebrewing and beer, which is kind of the same thing. Plus, we're talking SEO and content and YouTube. So we're pulling a lot of things together. Karl, how's it going today?
I'm doing great, Doug. How are you doing?
Awesome. Happy to be talking about beer. I am experiencing dry January right now, and I'm actually sleeping much better and I feel better. I wish I could say my hair is growing back, but it's not. And I'm just excited to talk about beer and content and everything. So for the people that don't know you, and actually I don't know you that well, Karl, can you give a little intro about yourself and maybe if you had a kind of a corporate career or what your deal is, and then we'll start talking about the site in question today.
Yeah. So I kind of did the normal trajectory path, I guess. Right out of high school, I just got a job and got kind of settled into that job. And after about 4 or 5 years, I started getting frustrated with that particular job, and my boss seemed to help that process along even farther and faster. So about 6 years in, I typed in how to make money online and spun on down the rabbit hole of awesomeness and traps and all kinds of good stuff that I fell for early on. But it kind of helped me in that cubicle a little bit more than just sitting there hating the job. So I worked on the side and I hustled, and I started building websites on the side for a few years. And after a couple of years, I was able to sell one of my assets that I built and leave that job for good, forever. So I've been at home, working at home for probably 3 or 4 years now inside of the SEO world, building websites. And I run the Homebrew Academy right now, which is a lot of fun. That's the homebrewing crossover you're talking about. And I've run that site for about 2 years. It gets about 75,000 page views a month. So it's not one of the bigger homebrewing sites out there. There's definitely massive conglomerates in that space, but this isn't a secret niche. It's not some affiliate marketing website that I'm afraid to share the URL and the brand and stuff. It actually has branded search traffic to it,
Right on.
which is something that I'm I'm proud of, I guess, to say. Most of the time I'm the first person to put out that barf face when somebody says branding and any other type of marketing terminology that is in that sort of gray zone space. But it's got a very low search volume when it comes to the actual branded search traffic. But I think that's going to be a bigger factor moving forward.
Very
So the
cool.
site's right at about $5,000 a month. It's 30, 40. 40% of that is affiliate marketing, 30% is ads, and 30% is courses.
All right. And that's cool. You're filling in the blanks. I don't even have to ask the question. So 75,000 visitors per month, roughly about $5,000 per month in revenue. And it's a good split. That's actually the kind of split that you would want to see. So you got display ads at 30%, courses at 30%, and then affiliate at 40. For the affiliate side, I suspect there's a lot of individual brands that you're working with, homebrew shops and stuff, or how does that break down?
Yeah, it generally starts on the Amazon front, and then proving sales and proving conversions through Amazon tracking. And then sometimes I'm able to move a partnership off of Amazon to be able to work with a brand direct. Sometimes not. Yeah, so it's probably 90% Amazon, 10% not Amazon on that affiliate front.
Okay. And then as far as the courses, how did you like find those partners? Are you creating the courses yourself, or yeah, what's being sold on the course side?
Yeah, it's specific homebrewing information. So there's not just one general course that just says how to make beer. It's courses that are partnered with guys that have been in the industry for a lot longer than I have. There's Josh Weichert. He has a BJCP mastery course. It's all about test prep for the actual exam, and to pass it the first time, right? So it's a very specific course inside the industry for a very specific person that wants to pass a test to be a certified beer judge, right? So we're not talking like how to be better at life type of courses. They're very, very niche, inside the market with hardly any competition. So that helps. But these guys, Marty Nachel is another one. And then Josh Lavoie, these guys have kind of been around the beer industry for a long time. They're not interested in building websites. They're not interested in the business side of things. They're specialists in the actual beer niche and passionate about that. So I kind of approached them and partnered up and said, I've got this site. I'm very passionate about the business end of things. And I can bring these marketing skills to that partnership, and you bring the content, and it's worked out well.
Very cool. That's amazing. For the people that don't know, I think probably if you listen to the podcast or watch the YouTube interviews, I'm into beer. I'm a BJCP judge, and I've given classes like what you're talking about. I'm fairly highly ranked. So
Okay, cool.
in certain geographies, right? Like there's no one that you can go have a class with. So when I moved to Montana, I was one of 7 judges in the whole state. It's the 4th largest state. There's only about 1 million people there. So there were very few judges. We couldn't really have homebrew competitions because we didn't have enough judges. So I started giving the class. So essentially added like 10 more judges to the pool, and then gave another test in the future. So it's pretty cool that
Yeah,
people can
yeah,
take it
very interesting.
online, show up for a test and all that stuff. So from the business end, how did you present this opportunity? Like, are you paying them out each month? Did you just hire those guys for creating the content, or how did that work?
Yeah, I just kind of cold emailed them and asked them what their preference was. I told them I would be able to bring X amount of visitors to the site because here's the actual metrics in Google Analytics, Google Search Console. And said, this is kind of what I'm looking to do. What do you want to do, right? So that's generally kind of worked out to a 50-50 split on course sales, and Teachable makes that incredibly easy. All the back end is taken care of with somebody that signs up to a course, paid my cut, the course instructors paid their cut, and it's all automated, and they have access to everything. So they can log in at their dashboard and see any metrics, see traffic, see drop-off rates, and they can see all the different students that have joined their course for the lifetime of it. Yeah, so it's fully automated on the back end, which makes it very very appealing.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I know from me being a course creator, there's a lot of work in each stage. So even if you have the course material, you still have to sell it, which is pretty tough. And then there's the whole tech side where you're
Yeah.
editing, uploading videos, and all those details. So I imagine it's a great opportunity for both parties, and it's a win-win. It's full transparency since they can log in and see how much money is coming in. So there's probably a lot of trust there.
Yeah.
That
Yep.
Awesome. So, how many like course students have you had? Can you share any of those details like that, if you happen to
Yeah, I
know?
mean, sure. Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head. Sorry, I just kind of know it's on average. It's about 1,500 a month in revenue comes through several different courses. So it's whichever ones are usually promoted on a promotion cycle through an automated email sequence that somebody signs up on a site. They get a lead magnet. This is marketing to the actual specific user demographic, the interested person, right? Marketing to marketers. Sometimes people get a little
Yeah.
they don't know that there's the line there all that much, and they're weaving back and forth across it, right? There's people that kind of turn their nose, I guess, at a lead magnet, like my 14 free brewing hacks, to brew better beer or whatever, and there's people that think that that should just be sign up to my list, right? And that works for marketers that have a lot of content outside of their specific email list driving directly to it. But in this case, in this niche, it's marketing directly to the people that are passionate about it with the lead magnet. That makes sense, an automated sequence at the back end. And then quarterly promotions, promotion schedule across each course. I actually put a pin on the last 2 quarters in 2020 just because I didn't feel great about where that particular industry was at. There weren't any homebrewing competitions. There wasn't any live events. There wasn't any new beer judges that needed to be created in that time frame. So I wasn't going to push that course too heavy. People are still learning how to brew beer, which makes the content on the site go better than it was when they were, working 50 hours a week at a different location. But that COVID seems to help out traffic a little bit, which helps out, the rest of the lead magnet opt-ins and metrics and all that stuff too. Yeah.
Wow. And again, just a great intersection with the stuff in my life. So the last competition that I judged was just down the street. I'm
Yeah.
in an awesome area for beer competitions and awesome judges. The Brewers Association is like 15, 20 minutes away. So I judged a competition on like March 7th or so. And I think like everything shut down the following week. So I remember people were a little bit more cautious, but I do
Yeah.
remember one of the stewards, like a judge helper, was sitting at the table and he was like, "Hey, do you want to try this beer?" And he was about to pass me his glass, and I was like, "No, man, like, wait, are you crazy, dude?" So
Yeah. Yeah. You have some
that
cooties.
was that was a common thing. I mean, a lot of
Mhm.
times you're sitting with people you know pretty well, and you pass a glass back and forth or whatever. That's so disgusting to even think about now, but yeah, that was like common practice, back in the day. Now, I say common practice, it would be with like someone that I'm personally friends with and I know them. So, anyway,
Yeah.
there's a big intersection, and all the competitions were essentially canceled or somehow changed up. So, I recently got an email. Things could be opening up for you soon, Carl. I got an
Mhm.
email. They're doing the homebrew conference, like competition, the homebrew, like the nationals, and there's actually going to be a site down in the Boulder area. So I may go down there. I'm not 100% sure, but they're obviously taking a ton of precautions. So it could open up. I mean, people still want to brew beer and they still want to judge and all that stuff. It's just as soon as we can get out there, we'll do it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those interesting areas of life, like with football, it seems to be it's substituting in for a lot of the free time that we used to have. So their numbers are incredibly up when it comes to like people actually watching from home, right? So the beer industry is they're trying to pivot a little bit. The IC services popping up where you can send in your homebrewed beer to have it judged, right? And that
Mm.
wasn't probably one of those things that a lot of people would think about before this. They like, no, I want to like watch you taste it in front of me because I brewed it, right? And I'm handing it to you, and we're gonna shake hands after and talk about how awesome it is, right? Like, why would I send it in through the mail? That doesn't really make that mental connection, I guess, when it comes to that that setup. But yeah, it's a market that's evolving fast, I think.
So let's back up and talk about the origin of the site. So did you start it from scratch? Where did it come from? And just walk us through that.
Yeah, it was. I'm not the original owner. I bought it from a guy. He's on the actual site, on the about page. I completely forgot it. We talked about it, and I left that on there. So he's Billy Bros is his last name. He started it, and he was doing live courses like twice a year. He would do this build up, and he would do a beer tasting mastery course. It would be a live taste 6 or 7 different beers alongside of him and learn about the different aspects of all of them. Right. And he would do all right. I think he told me that it was about 20 to 25K in revenue per year with 2 live launches, but it was a lot of work. And it just wasn't hitting the numbers that he wanted it to. He ended up selling the site to a mutual acquaintance of ours, a guy that runs the Bacon Wrap Business podcast, Brad Costanzo. He's another digital marketer out in California. We partnered up, and I kind of evergreened the courses out. I came in from the SEO side of things, improved the SEO on the site, redesigned it, relaid it out, site speed, technical, the top-down approach that you would take once you bought a new site. And then about 12 months in, he said he wasn't wanting to pursue the partnership anymore, so I just bought the site from him. That was about 2 years ago.
Okay.
Does that kind of sum it up?
Yeah, and you're the sole owner right now?
Yeah, yep.
Right on. Okay. And can you share like what this selling or the purchase price was like before you picked it up, or whatever you can share? Just if you can't, that's okay. I know there's a lot of times there's a lot of confidentiality around the sales.
Yeah, it was a 17x multiple, just the way that he had things set up and organized, and there was a lot of operator time behind that, and we weren't backing out my operator time for the SEO portion of it. I was just doing it for consulting at first, and then operating second, for display ad revenue, plus adding on courses with partnered course creators. So it was kind of a murky partnership, but we ended up selling on a 17x monthly multiple, based on some of the operations time that I had put into it. Yeah, about a year and a half ago.
For the content, if you could recall, how much was on there, I guess, when you started working on it, and then how much is on there now? What's sort of the publishing schedule that you've adopted at this point in time?
Yeah, it was just over 150 posts, I think. There was a lot of scattered content. Billy had a couple of his friends that would come on and do guest posts, and a couple of guys they knew at breweries, and just some handshake agreements to promote different things. And there were some posts about where he was traveling, you know 15 years ago from to and from. It was kind of like a Facebook post that was embedded in there, and there was just a lot of random stuff that was kind of unorganized and not really collected along the homebrew side of things. But he had originally started that site, and it was billybros.com, and he moved that over to homebrew-academy.com, and it wasn't a very clean migration. There was some personal stuff that just kind of made it across. So I kind of laid out more of a processed, organized system when I took over the SEO role, to post 4 posts a week, to have one of those be a recipe post, one of them be another informational piece of content, commercial content, whether it's a solo review or roundup based on the community feedback. There's a Facebook group with just close to 5,000 members. So they would give their feedback on, it'd be a curated piece of content based on a review from the community. So it wasn't just me buying the thing and, look at this awesome kettle, right? It's got markings on it here, right? And it's got markings on it there, so it was more of an organized group feedback, I guess, at the start of the thing. And then I touched base with Martin, who was doing a homebrew challenge. And we kind of added that into the content cycle to be able to notch that back up. He was about 20 weeks into this 99 beer challenge. He was brewing all 99 BJCP style beers of one a week for 2 years. So I'm still playing a little catch up with him when it comes to where he's currently at on the live schedule. I'm putting out a piece of content from a writer with his video transcript, kind of more of a full media piece rather than just here's the recipe, go brew it. There's some history, there's intro, there's a little bit of interest goes into the piece, and I do like one of those every 5 days. He brews every 7 days, so like we're getting ground on him.
Gotcha. And that's pretty cool. So that's the YouTube side. And
Yeah.
yeah, before we hop over to the YouTube stuff, which we'll dig into, so we have originally when you started working on the site, I think about 2 years ago, there were 150 posts, a little bit scattered. It required a content audit, which I'm actually going to do on niche site project right now because I have some nonsense going on, just what you're talking about, just some bullshit that's
Yeah,
like
good.
personal updates or no keywords. There's a lot of content where there's literally no keyword that I'm going for. Or even worse, I have multiple pieces of content that literally have the same keyword. So I need to go through. Did you see a
Hmm.
big uptick after you cleaned everything up just without publishing more content?
Yeah, almost doubled.
Okay. Do you have a handle on how much you deleted and or sort of curated down?
I would say there was just under 10 of these series posts that were like how to build a specific thing, but it would be like, say the Brutus 10 would be how to build the frame, then how to do the wiring, then how to do the gas, then how to do the liquid. And they'd be all separate, right? They'd be like, here, go to the next post, right? To how to build the Brutus 10. So there's 4 different URLs for that, right? And there's probably just under 10 of those with different pieces of DIY equipment, like how to build this thing, but it's split up into 4 different posts. Well, that might have been kind of the industry standard at the time. But obviously the industry evolves and updates, right? You can add jump links to that content. You can organize it and clean it up and make it more digestible inside of one URL. So all the links to these 3 other posts in the series, I collect and consolidate them and redirect them all the way back up to the main piece of content. So that's where a good portion of the traffic increase came from, was kind of killing that cannibalism going on with, if somebody types in how to build a Brutus 10, right, does Google send them to the wiring post, or do they send them to the frame post, or it's like that nobody's typing in a specific how to wire, a DIY Brutus 10, so they're typing in how to build it, right? So all aspects of it. So that really kind of helped. There was a bunch of that minus the personal stuff, like you said, that weren't targeting any keywords. There's stuff on there that is still not targeting keywords, but it's targeting links, right? It's linkable assets, um, data, statistics, stuff like that wouldn't be a valuable high traffic keyword to target. You wouldn't want to put that much time and effort into a data or statistics post about, how many people burn down their houses a year by trying to homebrew beer inside with a fire burning propane unit. There's there's surveys and there's stuff that collects that stuff up. But I mean, you wouldn't want to put that much time and effort into surveying an audience or putting that in an email sequence or any of that for a data post that gets 10 searches a month, right? But for a linkable asset, it's a little bit different.
That is good to know. I'm excited to see what's going to happen on Niche Site Project because I have started auditing and making changes a few times, but I never followed through in a big way. There's a strong chance I need to delete about, I don't know, half or 60% of the content and just get rid of it, kind of start fresh. And I'm at that point where I need to do it. I can see traffic is kind of suffering just from neglect and that sort of thing. So, all right, then once you got in there, you clean things up. Then you adopted a 4 post per week where you had a theme. So that kind of lightened the load as far as like coming up with new ideas. And you've been publishing a lot of content. So how much content is on the site at this point in time?
Right around 300 poster pages, parent,
Okay.
child. Yep. Yep.
Okay. And then from this point in time, like, do you have a target on how much you're going to publish? Or are you still doing 4 per week and just sort of indefinitely going forward with that?
No publishing schedule outside of the 12-month. It was a rolling 12 months when I first got it. I just did enough research and the content schedule for 2021. But beyond that, I'm not sure if that expands out to a wider alcohol brewing sector. The wine, there's about 7,000 different types of beer to actually review. I'm not sure if that's an actual content strategy that's where we're going to get into or not, because people do like posting their beer reviews on YouTube, but it's like, is it outside of their friends and family that are actually watching those? Are those keyword heavy? I haven't really decided outside of the home brewing niche specific if that site actually expands out or not. It's Homebrew Academy. It's not howtobrewbeer.com. It's brewing of things, right? I stepped my toe into a few coffee posts just to see how Google would respond to that. If it's categorized very specific with only brewing beer, if I threw a few test posts out on how to brew whiskey, how to brew gin or rum or that kind of stuff, will that site, will it respond well? I'm not sure yet. The tests are still out. So
Gotcha. It's
yeah.
interesting. I know the homebrew shops that I went to, we're weird people, us homebrewers. So there
Yeah.
were all sorts of different fermentation. It could be, kombucha. You may get into some sort of other, fermented foods, not just beverages. Definitely like coffee roasting and like those different kind of beans. Like that's a big niche and very interesting. I love coffee and got into, roasting my own beans at home too. So those are other places you can get into. And often
Sure.
if someone's making beer at home, they're doing some other weird stuff too, or at least they'll dabble. So I would check
Yeah.
that out. Okay. So shifting gears over to the YouTube side. So you mentioned you found someone who was already publishing some YouTube videos. So how'd you find this person? And then it sounds like kind of like the other stuff, maybe you just reached out and laid out what your idea was. So take us through that part.
Yeah. It's the first 8 secrets were just doing it, right? There's no specific strategy behind just reaching out saying, hey, you're doing a cool job on YouTube. I kind of would like to syndicate some of that content over on the site. I think having he didn't have a site linked from his YouTube channel, and he was about 20 weeks into this challenge that he had put out. So I kind of had some clues as to if he was just going to continue to stay on the platform or try to move off. I thought he would probably personally want to move off at this point, where he was at. So I reached out to him. I asked, I said, are you going to make your own website surrounding this? He said, absolutely not. I have no interest in keeping up with the technical aspects of WordPress and plugins and updates and themes and hosts. And he's like, I have no interest in that. Like, okay, well, I do. This is where I'm at. This is my passion is business and traffic and promoting these things. I think it would be a good crossover to have a lot of video content on the site. I can syndicate it over there, and that sends, it's a Google property, right? It's one of the secrets that large YouTube channels have is they have their content off the channel and they're pushing people to their channel off the platform, right? It's not a secret, I guess. The more you can drive views off a platform, the more the platform rewards you for it. So that was kind of the conversation that started the approval of syndicating his homebrew challenge off onto the Homebrew Academy.
You embed the videos and you have, his permission to transcribe it and sort of pull it together. Is there any other sort of monetary exchange going, or it's just a cross promotion and you're both obviously getting, more content out of it and or marketing?
Yeah. Early on, I thought having the guy that did 100 videos do an actual course on the topic, not how to do 100 videos on something or how to host a challenge, but do an actual brewing course around a specific area that he would like to do would be a good idea. I didn't know how much work doing one video a week would be. He said, "No way, absolutely not. I got all my free time is wrapped up into brewing and videos and editing and recording like weekly outside of his own. He has a full-time job, right? So his extra 10 hours a week are going towards this. Here I was thinking it was going to add another 10 hours a week to a schedule to put out a full course was going to be a good idea. Seen it from his side. Obviously, that's not the case, but that might change after the fact because he's got a very good system going for creating videos, and he doesn't really know what he's going to do after the challenge is over. Whether he's going to step out and start brewing, like you said, other things, fermentables or wine or whatever. But I think he is interested in doing specific brewing courses, just not a generalized course. Like I think that free line has moved 3 or 4 years ago, outside of just how to brew beer. Now people are very interested in the specifics and not being distracted by YouTube ads and related videos and all the other stuff you can find on the platform, but learning directly from the person that you want to, the course creator, on an undistracted platform, still is an opportunity, and he's aware of it. So am I. Yeah, I think I may have spun too far out into the right side of the field on that one.
No, that's perfect. I mean, it's very interesting because I mean, I obviously do YouTube videos, and yeah, there's so many distractions, and it's really easy for a viewer to accidentally like just veer off path and not actually even finish your video, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe they just kind of get distracted and forget what they were trying to do. It's just like you said, there's value in having like a dedicated platform without distractions so that someone can actually learn stuff. And from your perspective, like how has the cross promotion gone? Have you seen a lot of traffic on your site, and then is he getting more views now that you're working together? Like what's the result?
Yeah. So every month or so, I'll collect all those URLs into one GA report and send it over to him just so he has it, right? So he can see how many people are viewing that video embedded. If you get that metrics from your YouTube dashboard behind the scenes, but I want him to see how many people are coming through the site and either just skimming over the video, but yet seeing the 7 to 8 images of him and whatever he's doing inside the transcript, and then maybe finding his channel through that. He knows it's going to be a lead source through many different ways, some that are easily tracked and some that are not. So he's got search volume for Homebrew Challenge, right, on Google and on YouTube, right? Does that come from the Homebrew Academy? Does it come from, like, where does that come from, right? So that's the murky world of branding, that we talked about right at the beginning was, like, where does the actual search volume come from? He thinks that's influenced by having offsite, off YouTube, off his platform, right, searches happening, and that's the case. It's a gray zone, right? You can't really track that. It's cross-platform tracking, which is tough.
Mhm. And then I guess just like overall, like once the relationship, especially on his side, because I am curious, like how
Sure.
much of a benefit it is to on the YouTube side. All of a sudden, it's getting some more links. Some people are actually viewing it on your site. If he was like, "Oh, we can see there's a little uptick, and now we're at sort of a different level." So it's probably actually that is something I know I can go and look in. It's called like a Social Blade. Is that what it's called? That you can get
Yeah.
those stats. So that's freely
Yep.
available. I'll link it in the show notes and description so people could check it out. But you could like track along, my channel and see like if there was any hockey stick growth. There wasn't. It's just been like very slow, methodical, very
Yeah.
slow growth. So,
Well,
okay,
well,
that's cool.
that's good growth in SEO's mind. Slow and steady improvement, 2% over time. For an SEO, we don't want to see, too many hockey sticks. You'd like to see bumps, and you like to see, that. I mean, obviously, if it always hockey stick, that'd be great. But as digital asset creators and owners, you kind of know that those sticks, they come and go. So the excitement on the front end, sometimes if you let your emotions ride high with that, they fall down on the backside, right? And usually
Crash.
those metrics stay a little bit higher than they were before that, that offsite promotion.
Oh yeah.
Um, but every Sunday I send that curated content out to an email list of 23,000 subscribers. So every Sunday, definitely you'll see that, just like the opposite of a 9 to 5 niche where Monday through Friday traffic is high and Saturday and Sunday it sits in a gully and you're going, what happened? Right.
Yeah.
It's in a 9 to 5 niche where people are using that for work related stuff.
Very cool. And you said 23,000 on the email list. Can you
Yep.
share like the open rate and some other metrics? I guess open and click through rate. Just curious about those.
Yeah. It's nothing outside of the normal. It's 25 to 30% open rate. Um, with about a 5 to 6% click through rate, depending on the type and style of a beer. Yeah.
That's great. I was going to say that's much higher than mine as far as the actual click through rate, but I'm in the internet marketing area where everyone's like, oh, hit over the head with like these different overnight success stories or some other kind of bullshit, So,
Yeah. The
okay.
marketing to marketer is different, than marketing to home brewers, right? That's
Yeah.
very, you think it's the same, you think it's a niche business, but marketers are definitely another weird bunch, right? They're completely resistant to being marketed to, but they want to know how to market to their specific business niche audience. It's kind of
Yeah.
funny. I always try to determine that line and where that sits at, but yeah, it's another weird bunch.
Sure is. Man, it does it makes me want to hop into the homebrew area. Just one of my friends, I'm actually going to be on his live stream tomorrow from the time we're recording this, Matt
Yeah,
Giovanisi, and he has
yeah,
a homebrew blog and a YouTube channel and stuff too. And we've talked a couple of times. We're like, man, it would just be cool to like sit around, drink beer, and then publish that, and have a YouTube channel on that. So, and we potentially, right, arguably, we have the chops, and perhaps we're entertaining enough to make that work. But we'll see how it goes. I mean, I'm not even drinking right now, so
well, yeah. I don't know where the concept of dry January came from. Like, what masochist decided, like, let's create a whole month to where we're going to drink the 11 months out of the year, and then just not all of a sudden. Like, what? Where did that even come from? Do you know?
how
Do you
about
know the history behind it?
moderation? That would be a better idea than just stopping cold turkey. So, anyway, getting back on track. So you have fairly typical open rates and email
Mm-hmm.
sort of interaction. You mentioned that you have like essentially evergreen marketing in place. So someone will sign up for the list and they'll get an offer, and then you also typically you would quarterly launch. Although you skipped it, last fall, which makes sense. I actually did the same thing with some of the promotions that I do. Can you explain what's in the email sequence for people that haven't put together maybe like an autoresponder or any kind of campaign like that?
Yeah, it's kind of super soft touch right out of the gate. It's just a welcome series. Obviously, deliver the thing that they signed up for. If you're trying to test different things, don't forget to switch out the actual PDF that you want to attach to the first email. Made that mistake. Been there, done that. I think we probably all have. You switch out a headline on the opt-in and, hey, get this thing, and then you deliver them something else, and they're like, dude, that's not a great start, right? So don't stub your toe, I guess, on a technical aspect, like you will, I guess. If you're listening to this, you probably would be doing those types of things. But it's very welcome. Here's some of the most popular content on the site. Here's kind of a little backstory about us, where we came from, what we're passionate about, a little bit of connection. Then every 3 or 4 days, it's like a similar touch point. It just says, hey, hope some of those things that I explained inside of this, PDF you downloaded, hope you got a chance to check them out. This is the one thing that, if I could just tell anybody, and I told my dad this, that would kind of change a little bit of whether it's either saving money or being a little bit more efficient. Like, this is what I tell them. There's plenty more tips in there, but just kind of referring back to the thing and giving them one of the actual tips, and then giving them reason to go back and maybe find that if they didn't open it, or agree with the one that they not, or clearly disagree with one of the money saving tips in there too, which does happen. You kind of want to elicit a response. You don't want to be just a wet rag in somebody's inbox. So sometimes you'll get a response on either side of the fence, which is a good thing. But then it just kind of goes into more of a 3 or 4 day, like just resurfacing old content, new challenge stuff, like where that actually come from, like some of the back history in the story about, that partnership we talked about. Then it's mentioning this. I took this beer tasting mastery course, Evergreen. I pulled it off the launch cycle when we first started, and then just put it on Evergreen cycle. So it's there's a discount for being a new subscriber in there that says, hey, here's your, discount if you want to check out this beer tasting mastery course. We think it's great. Then there's just 2 more emails behind that with reminders, and then it kind of just transfers over to the general. It's a Sunday newsletter, right? It's Happy Sunday Homebrewer is the opening line on all the emails, so it's kind of married to Sunday. So it just kind of dumps into the main sequence after that. Yeah, so nothing too technical, nothing too I'm not taking people down different flows and different campaigns and stuff. It's just very, very beginner friendly, I guess.
I like that approach with just keeping it simple. One of the mastermind groups I'm in, someone's like really skilled with, I think, Active Campaign, and they have set it up for really corporate type clients. And there's so much power, right? There's so much segmentation and delivering the right message at the right time and all that stuff. And it's good for marketing the specific product. And I'm just picking on Active Campaign because that's the one I hear people throw out often. But
Yep.
most of the time, we're simple marketers, right? You can make it really complicated and set up like 3 different segments or 6 different segments and try to deliver just the right message. But our assumptions are just that. They're assumptions on what that person wants. So I know I've seen, people go through my funnel, which is simple. There's not many branches off. And it turns out maybe they didn't buy anything like the beginner product for years. And then all of a sudden it was the right time for them. And my assumption was completely wrong. So I definitely like the simple approach. And I think when people make it complicated out of the gate before they have any data, because now you've been doing it for a couple years, you might be able to make a few determinations based on the data, real data from your own traffic on who's purchased what and after how much time. So
Sure.
I am curious, how many emails are in your autoresponder slash like sort of sales campaign before they just get the broadcast emails?
9. Yep.
Okay. I like it. I think that's what you're coaching me, Karl, right now. I got to a point where I had something like 40 emails in my autoresponder. And much like my blog, it needs to be cleaned up. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to, go down to metal. I'm going to start from scratch, keep the very best, and hopefully end up with like 9 or 10 emails. And maybe every 6 months or so, I will do the same thing. So it's always a little fresh. There's never anything in there that's like 5 years old or 6 years old, like I have in my autoresponder now, because people don't think it's relevant anymore. Maybe with beer, it would be a little bit better if you're referring to maybe like a historical style, which is obviously not going to change. There's no like new things coming up with a specific style that is kind of static. So, okay,
Yeah.
very good.
And that was, it was, I started down that complicated route. I started down hey, can I split this campaign in half? And now I have to write 10 emails for this person and 10 more emails for the person that clicked and didn't open. And for me, I didn't really enjoy that particular process in the business. You can do those things with SEO too, like extremely fast. You can just, somebody told you to do something or try something, and all of a sudden you've just added on another 5 hours a week to test SEO whiz bang thing, that you don't even know is proven or not, just because you read it on some other blog or some podcast or something, right? So you do that 2 or 3 times over, and you might get lost in the weeds pretty quick, and it might actually be doing more damage than good, right? So I didn't enjoy that actual email split testing and segmentation process. So I did what works for me, keep it simple.
When the person gets the offer for the first time in that email sequence, they get a little discount. And then after that, is the course still available for them to purchase? It's just without the discount. Do you have like some scarcity aside from the discount going away, or does it? Yeah, I guess can the person just buy it at any time and it's just not a discount?
No scarcity outside of the actual email. It's evergreen. They can buy it whenever, at full price, and then I'll do promotions like either quarterly or as new ones came out. It kind of went like every other month because I had a new course coming out with a different partner on a different thing, right? So I would launch that as a discounted promotion, and then I would mention like you can get this other course along with it at the same discount if you want to, right? You can buy 2 courses at this same 25% off rate, that kind of thing. So as more courses would come out, it kind of created this more of a portfolio approach to where you can discount the whole bundle. I always wanted to bundle them up and sell them all as a package. Haven't yet. It's been on my to-do list, just like Permine and going back and killing old content on your site. There's some resistance that builds up, and you kind of think maybe my time is better served somewhere else. Whatever the mental hurdle is that you need to get across to be able to accomplish that one thing on your to-do list. It's different for all of us, but I think that's been one thing that I've been wanting to do, just haven't quite pursued it just yet, was the bundling of all of them. Yep.
I like that too. I think there's some other, sales psychology and marketing in play there. So I'm like excited to bundle some of my stuff once I get a few more products out there. I'm
Okay.
perhaps putting up a couple barriers, but I would like to make it a great offer whenever I bundle my products together. So now, before we switch gears and kind of go a little bit higher level, is there anything else about Homebrew Academy that I didn't ask that we should talk about here? We hit content, we hit YouTube. Oh, link building. Is there any big link building things that you did?
No, no, I wish there was something that I could say, hey, just go out and do this and you can start generating 10 links a week to your content. But there's no one particular secret, right? There's different types of link bait that you can put out there. There's lists and statistics designed to be able to attract links from different types of people for different reasons. You can try to appeal somebody's ego. Been there, done that. Didn't feel great doing about it. Don't do a whole lot of it. I prefer to put out stuff that has hard data in it that people would look to make for a source link. So more of if I was a journalist, what would I want to be able to link to in this specific area, and how do I get them to that piece, rather than, I guess you'd call that more of an inbound approach than an outbound approach. Yeah. So there's no skyscrapers. There's no like mass email campaigns that go out begging for people for a link. I see courses and I get inbound requests from those types of people because my email is sitting right there on the about page. Hey, can we work together and for do file link placement, please, sir? I'm like, no, you can't. So I'm blunt and just want to be upfront about it. I'm the same way. I think I've heard you say that on the podcast before. I'm just going to say no, hard pass, and you hit me up 3 or 4 more times, then you'll get spammed. Maybe 1 or 2, just archive them and be gone. But I don't want to fall in the side of that either, in other people's inboxes. Yep.
Yeah. And the sad thing, I just got hit up by, it's actually like a successful marketer. I didn't know him before, but he's built things and sold them. And yeah, he's just spamming me with automated emails. And I'm like, come on, dude. Like, why are you doing that? Like, you sent one yesterday, you sent another one today.
It
Like,
wasn't
come on,
Matt, was
just
it? Oh.
no, no.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I won't say who it is on air here because I see the thing is like he may be like a cool dude and we have like common friends and like that's the right way to like make the intro, like don't spam me. But yeah, I mean,
Sure.
there's courses out there where it's just like, yeah, I got the best results after I sent 4 reminders, and here's how you do it with this automated email. And hopefully, like, as I'm marking them as spam and you are, like, these will not be deliverable in the future, but I'll see how it goes. I mean, it's just a mild annoyance, but it's one of those things that I don't want to spend time in the email box. So, okay, back on
Yeah.
track here. any,
It's a
any,
process. It works in some markets. It annoys people in some markets, and it works in others. You know.
right. Well, like you mentioned before, it's like marketing to marketers. Like they're taking this approach with me who like knows the approaches, so it's not effective with me. It's the
Right.
opposite.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, anything else with the site overall? You mentioned no other link building, nothing super interesting, other than the stats. I think those are very good tips. Do you do any like custom graphics with the stats so people can maybe pull those and use them and then link back to your site?
I find that the JavaScript charts work sometimes. People can't pull that as an image unless they screenshot it. So if you're going to do a JavaScript chart where the information is displayed when you hover over it, right? Whether it's a bar chart or a pie chart or whatever. Usually, it's better to include an image at the bottom that can be easily pulled or sourced for something. Rather than saying, "Hey, you can screenshot this and use it," and I won't come after you for taking the data right off my site. That could get deleted tomorrow, and then the person pulled the image right off the site just by taking a screenshot of it, and they don't have any recourse, I guess. So include the images, I guess, if you're going to use graphs that are designed in JavaScript charts for other people to use along with that. And as I'm saying that, I can think of 3 different posts that I didn't do that on. So this is more of, oh yeah, by the way,
Right
start
on.
practicing what you preach a little bit more too while you're at it.
Okay, and then to sort of wrap it up, couple more questions. Do you have other sites? Is this just part of your portfolio, or what else do you work on?
Yeah, the very first site that I sold that got me out of the day job was in the motorcycle industry. I do have another site in the motorcycle industry. That was 7 years ago, right? There's no really non-compete in place that lasts for 7 years at that point. At least I wouldn't. I signed one longer than I wished I wouldn't have. I guess after that, but there's that. I lead the SEO team at an agency, so we have a full client list of sites that we work on, and we use sites in different markets to be able to apply strategies and tactics on those sites and vice versa. So it gives us a broader general feel of what's working on a digital marketing strategy level than just specific SEO inside of this particular niche. Yeah. So, but I don't have a whole a whole batch of sites myself. I have fun with this one because it talks a lot about beer and homebrewing. But I usually will start a site chasing money, and then 3 or 4 months later to have zero ambition to keep working on it because it fizzles out, right? It burns out. So yeah, those things die off pretty quick. And I've learned over the years to, be excited about something and just live through the excitement rather than go start a website about it in addition to it.
Yeah, that's a hard lesson to learn, but yeah, I've been there too. Especially early on, you buy these domain names and you're like, I'm definitely going to start a site on that thing, and then if you're lucky, you don't do anything, you don't burn any more time, and it's just a domain that you let go. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's so
if you're
it's so
lucky.
tempting.
Yeah. Yeah,
So tempting.
absolutely. 100% agree. If you're lucky, you get that far with it. Um, but yeah, it's the fun part of the business, right? Being able to experiment and be able to drop those lines in the water and kind of test things out, just because you can. I mean, why not?
Right on. All right. Well, we talked earlier, and you're not promoting anything. You made it clear. You were like, hey, I'm just here for the audience. I'm a listener. I'm a viewer. So I appreciate your time, Karl. People can obviously go to Homebrew Academy, and there's nowhere else you want them to go, right?
No, that's one of the things I was going to quick push that back on you. I'm here obviously talking to you about your niche site business. If you were to inherit this site, like say I died from COVID here soon, unfortunately, and I gifted this site off to Doug, what would be his first 5 or 6 quick wins that he would tackle with it, from your perspective, from what I've told you over the last hour or so.
Oh man. Well, I'll give you some off the cuff, and then I'll probably think about it some more. And when I record the podcast outro, maybe I'll pepper some more in there. So I'll
Cool.
force
I
you to
like it.
listen to your own episode here. So I would, because I'm obviously into podcasting, I like the audio format, and I personally listen to maybe thousands of hours of beer podcasting. I would probably start a podcast in the home brewing area. There's so much content that you can repurpose that's already done on your site, that's already kind of done on YouTube. One of
Mhm.
the very influential podcasts that I listen to, it used to be called the Jameel Show, and there's a guy named Jameel Zainasheff. I have a couple of his books on the shelf behind me here, and they rebranded it to something called Brewing with Style, which is a better name. And he goes over all of the styles, that gives a little history, talks about how to brew them. And then he eventually wrote a book based on the podcast episodes, more or less, which were his award winning recipes. So I would probably start a podcast. There are potentially, with your approach that you've been taking before, there's probably people that you could partner with to do it. Now, the thing is, obviously, to put out a episode a week or to create a video, like you have to have someone who's committed, because this stuff gets hard fast. And if you don't, if you're not committed to the whole process, it'd be real easy to have someone hop on, do 5, 6 episodes, and then quit. So it sounds like you've been very good at finding people that can follow through. From the content standpoint, it sounds like you did a great job. So you have different areas. You have some that are more keyword driven. You have some that are commercially driven. And then
Mhm.
you have some that are sort of crowdsourced and get the community involved, which is brilliant because you'll probably have some crossover with that there. I would potentially put into your process maybe every 6 months or a quarter to figure out how to sort of re-optimize the content. And this kind of goes back to me not auditing my blog for years. So I end up with a total mess on my hands. So
Mhm.
you may already have this in place. Do you already, like some sort of periodic content audit?
Yeah, probably more than I should, just because of the hazards of the day job. I do a lot of it through the SEO agency, so I can't help but not do it when
Okay.
it comes to my sites. Yeah.
So that's a good habit there. So I didn't do investigation ahead of time, so that's why I may come back and give more tips.
Yeah. Cool. No, I like
And
it.
like always, go have a look at what your competitors are marketing, the kind of content that's working for them. And obviously, I really like YouTube as well. I mean, there were other YouTubers that I watched learning to homebrew as well. And I think, people like personalities. And if you could have like more of a talking drinking show, there's a possibility. Now, I don't know if there's many of them out there, but there's a possibility where you can make that work really well. In one of my other favorite shows, they basically talk to breweries. So they would get the head brewer on, they would talk beer, they would really geek out, and
Hmm.
that was the show. They would drink beer, they would have samples, and it was, fun for the host, fun for the brewer because they get to talk shop and all that stuff. And I think it would stand for, actually it would work for a podcast and it would work for YouTube as well. So I think there's other mediums that you can branch out into and just like, double down, triple down on YouTube even more.
Those seem to you fall into the media personality content creation bucket, I guess, if you would, like creating, more YouTube videos in specific areas, podcasts, like you said, interviewing probably homebrewers to start, but then expanding out to people that are running microbreweries. Right here in West Michigan, we probably have a microbrewery. I don't know, like a church bar microbrewery, and then start back over again. But I guess one area we never even really jumped into is physical products, right? I just emailed the guy that did the Brewer Stone Journal. You ever heard of that? This limestone paper, right? Rather than actual, tree cut paper, they make paper from limestone waste, right? And he had a product for sale called the Brewer's Stone Journal that did okay, for a while. But this is a stationery company. It wasn't like a homebrew e-commerce store where they added on a journal to it. He was trying to take this journal and market it to homebrewers through his stationery business, right? So there was some disconnect, I guess, there. So I just emailed him a few weeks ago, and he sent me 5 cases of the things, and he hasn't sold them in close to 2 years, right? And now I can't get a hold of them, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do with these, but it definitely has the wheels spinning when it comes to what physical products can be created for to solve specific pain points in that industry. Because I kind of did that whole process once before, and I don't want to get too spun out, but I did 3D design, sourced in China, selling FBA. I'm always kind of looking at crossover to be able to expand revenue streams with that in mind also.
I think it could be Are you a home brewer as well?
No, see, I actually
Okay.
been sober for over 5 years.
Okay. Interesting.
Yep. I've been dry 5 years.
Interesting.
Yep.
Fun, like quick tangent here. Did you ever hear of the Beer Connoisseur magazine?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
So I was friends with like the founders. It was out of Atlanta. So like one of my very good friends was one of the co-founders, and then the other
Mm-hmm.
founder was sober. He was an alcoholic and he was sober, it was a strange combination because we went to like Great American Beer Festival, and like it's like, hey, you're at the behind the scenes parties and stuff, and
Yeah.
then it was
Sure.
kind of it's like, oh yeah, yeah, I don't drink, I'm sober. It was like everyone's like, okay, it's like
Wait a
awkward for a
minute
second,
though.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
So I think I would, because you're not a home brewer, it would be slightly more difficult to like hit the pain points. Of course, you could go talk to home brewers and figure those out through conversations and all that stuff. But I would most likely try to partner with either homebrew shops that are white labeling and doing the heavy lifting for you,
Mhm.
or partner with the manufacturers. But there is a lot of white labeling going on, and then there are other physical product companies that pop up. Like Blickman's a really good one, and they have
Mhm.
fantastic products. I am drawing a blank on some of the others, but with some of the electric systems that are out and just different established companies already, I would probably partner with them. And because you're more on the content side, unless you just wanted to dabble with physical products, you could, like I said, you could produce podcasts, you could do YouTube and have them sponsor the show and like have it like more as a partnership where you both cross promote each other and that sort of thing. But you can still have an affiliate relationship, of course, but at that point you don't have to go through all the R&D, and you don't have to like have all this inventory. You're sitting with your strengths, which is like producing content in different mediums and then getting
Mhm.
traffic there. So I don't know. It just depends on how much you would want to come up with a physical product. But since you're not a home brewer, it's like, I, I mean, I'm a home brewer and I'm like, I don't even want to do it. So,
There's no one thing though that you wish exists that doesn't, right? There's no like. Usually that's when you put the eye on a great product and you see it and you're like, oh, why didn't I think of that, right? There's no like one humongous pain like the brew in the bag, you know, thing started what like 9, 10 years ago, something like that, longer than that. It just
mhm.
became popular by branding, and then obviously people transfer that into metal bags and stuff. But there's no like one thing that like I wish something would just fix this. Yeah, right.
No, and it's, there could be those products, but in a lot of ways, I'm like just a someone who's satisfied once a problem is solved, and I probably am not doing things in the best way across the board, whether it's like home brewing or doing SEO or whatever. But if it's like close enough, usually I'm satisfied and I'm like, I have that, plug-in problem solved. So I'm not out there trying to find solutions to problems that I already partially have solved, and I don't have
Yeah.
any like major issues. So no, I don't have any magic ideas.
Yeah, good.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, because if it was really that painful, you'd just go buy the beer at the store, right? You wouldn't be looking to solve that, like that itch, I guess, when it comes to one piece of the whole puzzle that
Right.
that needed to be solved, right? Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. Appreciate
All
that.
right. Well, any other thoughts or anything before we wrap it up?
No, I think I threw a fastball at you, and it was fun to get a few responses. I'm looking forward to seeing what generates after our conversation. And yeah, this has been obviously one exciting site to work on for me personally, because like you said earlier, I meet some people sometimes and I tell them I'm sober, and they're like, "Why do you run a homebrewing site? Like that's like." Well, I'm passionate about the business side of things, right? I'm passionate about the marketing, the SEO, the relationships, all that stuff outside of the actual drinking of the beer. Because I see competitor sites pop up all the time. These guys are very passionate about drinking beer, and they work on their site for 3 months and realize they just like drinking beer more than working on a website, right? Those passions don't cross over all that well, and sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. For me, the motorcycle passion didn't cross over because I have a bike, I like riding it, try to make a business out of something, doing something related, and it pulled the passion right out of it for me, right? So for me personally, working on something that I don't participate in is a very good fix for that.
Well, thanks for joining me, Carl. Hopefully, we can get an update in the future and see how things are going.
Yeah, appreciate it, Doug. Thanks again.
Thanks again to Carl. And if you're brand new to the channel, check out some of the other interviews. And if you really like them, please subscribe. I do appreciate it. Like the video as well. And don't forget to leave questions if you have some questions for Carl.